So here are the biggest UK news stories for the past week from the 19th to the 26th of November 2025. So the autumn budget has got people riled up a little bit. Chancellor Rachel Reeves announced sweeping tax rises worth 26 billion annually, froze income tax and national insurance thresholds until 2031, and scrapped the two-child benefit cap. The package aims to cut child poverty and stabilise public finances. Wow. Okay. This is the first time, obviously, because I've only just done the search, that I've heard about that. So that'll be interesting to look into, because they're looking at aiming to cut child poverty and stabilise public finances. So we'll see. I'll do a bit of research into that, because the health and well-being of the people that are suffering at the moment in our country is really at stake. And when I say suffering, I use the term suffering along the lines of everyday toil, trouble, stress, and trauma that you're facing. So I'll look into that, and I will explore that as a topic to discuss and maybe write a piece on. The energy bill relief for businesses. The budget included measures to ease soaring energy costs for millions of UK firms, with targeted support expected. Well, that's really, really good. When I had I had a pub in South Shields, the energy bills for such a large operation were astronomically high, and that was 10 years ago. So yeah, that will be interesting from a health and well-being point of view. I know from having been a landlord for 5 years that the health and well-being of the landlord is really paramount in making a place work effectively. So the health and, like, especially the health and mental well-being, if you're under a lot of stress in that kind of a situation, it can really put a lot of pressure on you. And I've had an experience with the pub company when I was at the pub that I had in South Shields, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. That's something we can go into at a different time. Political backlash. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch branded the budget a smorgasbord of misery and called for Reeve to resign, highlighting fierce opposition. So that would be interesting to read, just from a, I wonder what that's all about. Are there going to be any sackings? Ultra wealthy are leaving the UK. Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Okay, reports suggest Britain's richest individuals are relocating overseas due to rising taxes, with figures like Lashmi Mittal stepping away from the UK. Oh, wow. Um, I'm not into the people who've got billions and billions. I just doesn't improve your health and well-being. Doesn't matter how much money you have, it does not improve your health and well-being. I know people who are really suffering with a lot of the ethical choices that they have made in their life at a big business level and at a big money level. And money does not bring you happiness. Crime and public safety. A 15-year-old was arrested after a town centre shooting left another teenager fighting for life. London also saw a fireworks warehouse explosion, sending smoke across the city. I bet that was pretty. I bet that was really pretty. Oh dear. I might look at that just for the visuals. A 15-year-old arrested after a town centre shooting. Oh dear. We were just discussing the lockdown procedures and protocols in our schools that may well work as a deterrent for that. From the older part, like the older end of the school preparedness, I think there are other things that we can implement into schools that will offset this kind of behaviour. And I seriously think that there needs to be trained professionals in schools, and there probably are, but the discussion topics need to be around health and well-being, and not just the health and well-being of yourself, but how the resonance of the energy you have affects other people around you. And I think that that's a really key area in schools where sadly they're lacking. um I mean, I had a thought about the appropriateness of protocols and drills in schools for the different age groups, and the first thought was for primary school children. If we had impromptu, right, class, we're now going to take a 20-minute out, take them to a room and sit them down and have them meditate for 20 minutes. If that was an impromptu thing in primary schools, you could then, after having had that for a little while, link that into the lockdown preparedness, so that a primary school child's brain will go into oh, we're going for a meditation. We're going into a meditation space. We're going to spend 20 minutes in a meditation, rather than, oh my God, what's happening? Something's happening that I'm not used to. And so the wording can be, come on, children, we're going to our meditation space. And that's all it needs to be. And that can be incorporated into the procedure so that it's a natural thing for them to feel comfortable doing. So it's a prophylactic, almost, like if you do meditation at that age in schools and then carry it right the way through the whole of the school age range, so primary, secondary, and later on as well, then the more the children become aware of what the procedures and protocols are for, the older they are, rather than, so you bring it incrementally in. So the very, very young ones don't really need to be aware of a possible shooter, a chemical. So the way to voice that would be, let's not get anybody concerned. We're going off to our meditation space, and it can happen at different times, not a regular, it's a Monday in the morning, we're having a meditation space, because then with a child, if it's a Wednesday and you're saying go into the meditation space, that's equally confusing. So if it's impromptu, so not on a particular day at a particular time, just scattered, and have a kind of curriculum of, right, over the space of a week, we will incorporate on different days just one meditation practice, and we'll differ the days as we go through over the space of a month, and then assess the data and see how the children adapt to it. Because meditation isn't something that they would naturally be taught by their parents, and it's not something they would naturally be taught in a school setting. And they're the very first two. And there's a lot of people that I've spoken to who've said to me, Sarah, meditation, I just can't do it. I can't get my mind to shut up enough to do it. If we had meditations in school from primary school age, if parents taught it at home, sorry. But if we had meditation in school from primary school age, the 50, 60, 70-year-old people that I chat with now that tell me they can't meditate, they can't. And I sit with them and I say, no, you just don't meditate because you've never learned how to. They would have that then. So, yeah, this 15-year-old, if he'd have sat and meditated from the age of 4 or 5 when he went into school, who knows? Possibly this 15-year-old would have been less likely to shoot another teenager. So it doesn't say whether the 15-year-old is a male or a female, and we don't want to make those kind of assumptions. Okay, next one, critical cyber attacks on councils. Several London councils reported possible data theft after coordinating cyber incidents, raising concerns about local government security. How very, very interesting. So this is at councils. So we're talking about London councils. So London councils have reported this. And they want us to have a digital ID and tell us that all our information is going to be completely safe on this digital ID when the local councils are getting hacked. Cyber attacks. Just bear that in mind when they try and force you to move away from cash into a digital form of currency, when they try to basically put everything into your phone. Yeah, don't get me started on that. Okay, next one. Healthcare inquiry. A hospital is under investigation for pursuing a natural birth ideology that may have endangered mothers and babies. Now, that one I will follow up on. That one I will follow up on because that concerns me. That concerns me greatly. So I'll follow up, and I'll probably do, I don't know, I might do a live on it, or I may well just do a video for it. But that's quite concerning. So this week's coverage shows a mix of economical upheaval or economic upheaval, political tension, and public safety concerns. The autumn budget dominates headlines, but stories of crime, cyber threats, and healthcare failings are also captured national attention. So there you have it. So yeah, there are quite a few things there that I'm gonna follow up on, because I think they could be quite interesting. So that was Copilot. And that's what I do. I go through, and then if there's something that I really believe is going to impact the health and well-being of the nation as a whole, if you think about the whole situation as from micro to macro, whatever affects you in yourself will affect your surroundings. And so from that point of view, that echoes out to the macro. So it can affect your relationships, it can affect your work life, that can have a knock-on effect, whatever's going on for you in your social settings, and then society at a whole, and then we come out to the macro. So the worldview becomes affected by each individual. That's part of it, because we're all connected. So at the macro level, then whatever happens there will have an impact inwards to the micro level. So I'm a firm believer that the things that are happening at the moment, especially in the news in the last 7 days, may well feel like they're out there, but when they happen, there are effects that ripple into you as an individual, especially if it touches something that you're close to. And we'll discuss a little bit more about that, because there's something I need to kind of cover later. But I also use Claude. Now, Claude is something that I picked up from watching Ian Carroll, because he's fabulous. If you ever get a chance, look up Ian Carroll. It's the Cancel Ian Carroll. I'm sure he's definitely on Twitch. He's definitely on YouTube, but I'm sure he carries across quite a few platforms. But he introduced me to Claude. So one of the interesting things is, if you put the exact same question into Copilot, that Copilot is run by Microsoft. So of course there are ties to other powers through Microsoft. So everything that Copilot gives you is aimed at you looking at specific things according to an agenda that is much bigger on a macro scale compared to the micro of us looking at Copilot. So Claude, if we put the same question into Claude is run by a completely different organization, and you can look it up, you can find it for yourself. Claude is run by a different organization. I'm still not sure about the owners and the CEOs of Claude, but we'll ask Claude the same question and see. I mean, I like the name Claude as well. I think that's quite a good. Oh, show me the top UK news stories for the 7 days, please. It says, I'll search for the latest UK news stories from the past week. The great thing about Claude is you can actually look at what he's looking at. So you can see what he's looking through. So there's those first 10 results. Let me get more specific information about the main UK news stories from the past week. So budget. So exactly the same. Let's see Claude's take on it, having read Copilot. Chancellor Rachel Reeves unveiled 26 billion in tax rises, making her second budget marking her second budget. Scrapping the 2-child benefit cap. We got that first on this one. Income tax thresholds frozen for an additional 3 years. We've got that. A new mansion tax. Oh, Copilot didn't tell us about that. A new mansion tax, 2,500 annual charge on properties over 2 million, rising to 7,500 for those over 5 million. Well, that's a bit of a tax on the rich, don't you think? Do you think that links to the co-pilots? The fact that, our rich people are leaving the country, would that be part of that, do you think? Electric vehicle drivers will pay 3 pence per mile from 2028 to 2029. That's interesting. I don't have an electric vehicle and I wouldn't be able to tell you how much it would cost per mile. Interesting. And the fact that they're doing it from 2028 till 2029, does that mean at the end of 2029, it's a bit like the energy prices, there's a cap. There's a cap for until 2029, and then all of a sudden they'll soar up and you won't be able to afford them. So prepare to be bombarded by electric vehicle ads to get you to buy an electric vehicle between 28, 29, so that you're fooled into thinking that it's going to be 3p per mile. And then at the end of 29, it'll probably go sky high to like, oh, who knows? They'll probably just dip in a hat and go, oh, 10p. I think that's what they do with the energy prices, the amount of money that they have. Anyway, that's another story. Cash ISA savings limit reduced to 12,000 from 20. Okay. £150 cut to average household energy bills. Now, that wasn't mentioned in Copilot either. That's interesting. That will affect a lot of people, especially along the elderly category, but just generally, like to cut the household energy bills by £150. But that'll be over the year. So when that equates out, that's going to be your cold weather payment, effectively. Freezes on rail fares, fuel duty, and prescription fees. Okay, so interesting. So that was the budget recap. A little bit more in depth than Copilot, and not quite as biased. I mean, it actually said it like it was, rather than saying our rich people are leaving. It actually says why, or a possibility of why. So the second part. Oh, now this wasn't mentioned at all in Copilot. Farmers' tractor protest in London. Farmers drove tractors into central London for a budget day protest despite Metropolitan Police restrictions. Good on you, farmers. The protest focused on opposition to inheritance tax changes affecting farms worth over 1 million. Several arrests were made. Oh no. Oh. After the Met Office banned agricultural vehicles from Whitehall at the last minute, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage offered to provide full legal support to arrested farmers. So Farage is after the farmers' vote. Okay. Ukraine peace talk progress. This wasn't mentioned on Copilot either. Copilot, interesting. I found quite a few emotionally and from a health and well-being point of view subjects that I'm going to have to explore, whereas so far with Claude not so. Ukraine peace talks progress. Interesting that Claude has put this into the UK. What's happening in the UK. Ukraine says it has reached a common understanding with the United States on an amended peace proposal to halt the war with Russia, following talks in Geneva over the weekend. Okay. Yeah. And we can do a whole piece on people at war and the effect that war will have on your emotional and mental health. Economic growth forecast. The UK economy is expected to grow at a slower rate than previously expected from next year, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility. Through growth for this year, though growth this year was revised upward. Okay. So these stories, according to Claude, have dominated UK headlines over the past week, with the budget and farmers' protests being the most significant domestic event.